This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
The following program is rated MALSV. It contains strong language, sexual situations, and violence. It is intended only for mature audiences.
Finally, show with the balls to call it like it is. Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Countdown to audio torture.
The Rated R Safety Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Let the eardrum pain begin.
Forget the corporate bullshit. This is the Rated R Safety Show with your host, Dr. It doesn't matter who the host is.
Well, hello. Today's Thursday, April the 9th of 2020, day 100 of the year, and only 266 days to go. How are you doing today? Hopefully you're off to a fantastic start right now in the midday. Oh yeah, I did say the midday.
Duh.
Anywho, anything exciting happened over the last 24 hours for you? 23 and change, but who's counting? But anyways, that's not important. So, my lovelies, how are you? So, as you are aware, we've been doing this Rated R Safety Show stuff for a little bit here. Having some times, doing some things. Are you doing liquid lunch today? I'm not sure what's going on. I will say that I am consisting today of drinking some water, as I do drink clear liquid all the time. Anyways, we are streaming right now, or broadcasting, depending on how you're taking a listen to us, on safetyfm.com. We are also streaming on the different streaming platforms from across the universe here. And, of course, you can listen to us as a podcast, and we'll come on later out a little bit later after we're done with this particular version of the show. Anyways, over the last few days, we've been actually starting off with feature story news, so why do it any different today than what we have at any other time? So let's get you started with feature story news.
Bringing you information you never knew you cared about.
And here we go.
From Feature Story News in
Rated
Washington,
R Safety
Simon
Show.
Marks. New U.S. government figures show that more than 6.6 million Americans signed on for unemployment benefits in the last week as COVID-19 continues to ravage the U.S. and its economy. It means more than 16 million people are now registered as out of work, and economists expect that number to continue climbing. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Nick Harper reports.
It's another incredible surge in unemployment, showing the US has lost 10% of its workforce in the last 3 weeks. Before COVID-19, weekly unemployment claims were averaging just over 220,000 people a week. The dramatic increase follows the $2.2 trillion government stimulus package that also extended the type of people who could claim unemployment help, adding self-employed and independent contractors to the list. I'm Nick Harper in Washington.
Meanwhile, in Canada, the country's unemployment rate is now 7.8% after the country lost more than 1 million jobs in March alone. The Pentagon says 1,900 members of the U.S. military have now tested positive for COVID-19. A second aircraft carrier, the USS Nimitz, now has cases on board in addition to the USS Theodore Roosevelt. But military chiefs are warning the country's enemies that the virus isn't depleting troop readiness. Deputy Defense Secretary David Norquist.
To those who wish us harm, make no mistake. Even with the challenges that this disease has brought to our shores, the Department of Defense stands ready to meet any threat and defend our nation.
President Trump's top public health advisors are warning against complacency in the light of data suggesting the new rate of infections may be slightly slowing. Dr. Anthony Fauci heads the National Institutes of Health.
Don't get complacent about that. We need to keep mitigating. We know that this is something that is a strain on the American public. But it's just something that we have, not only the only tool, it's the best tool.
But the president's Attorney General, William Barr, says the lockdown of the U.S. economy is draconian, and he's calling for steps to lift it next month. The condition of British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is said to be improving in intensive care in London. Oliver Dowden is the British government's culture secretary.
He's sat up in bed and he's engaging with medical staff, so stable and improving. We're all rooting for him, and it sounds like he's making some good progress.
Two other headlines. The woman who first revealed President Bill Clinton was having an inappropriate relationship with a White House intern has died. Linda Tripp was 70. And if you saw it, you will know that stargazers worldwide have been enjoying a so-called pink supermoon, which happens when the moon makes its closest approach to the Earth's orbit. It was terrific. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Listen to our host of the Rated R Safety Show self-implode on our airwaves, only on Safety FM.
Okay, couple things real quick. Number one, didn't that sound a little weird on how excited that dude was talking about that supermoon at the end? That sounded a little strange. And then number two, the cluster F that occurred while we were trying to get the news started is what happens is we have everything Apple branded. Yeah, that's the way that it works. And so somebody was trying to call in, and it came in through the pad at the same time as I was trying to get the news started. So that was what the cluster behind the scenes was. Now, I know that as a professional broadcaster, I'm never supposed to talk about those things. But sometimes I find some of that information so much more interesting than what's actually going on here in front of everything. Anyways, as the traditional goes, we need to start doing our normal tradition and make sure that I don't get in trouble. So let's get you started into my version of the news. Disclaimer, then the news.
We at Safety FM are not responsible for what this idiot behind the microphone is saying. He is trying to be entertaining. Rated R Safety Show. Here is the news on the Rated R Safety Show.
Anyways, Johns Hopkins University estimates that about 300,000 people worldwide are infected with the coronavirus have survived. This does not include unmeasurable numbers who have been infected without any symptoms. As of Tuesday, total global infections show 1.4 million. Yeah, it's 1.4 million. So that's the other thing. So these are people that, it's a combination of stuff, or not counting the combination of stuff. Because keep in mind that there's not tests, supposedly, or depending on which source you're listening to, that are available for everybody to be able to take a test. So this is just based on information that we can gather.
Duh.
Anyways, let's continue. Shutdown restrictions in Malaysia are bad news for Carax, which produces one of the five world's condoms. 1 in 5 of the world's condoms. Yeah, you heard me correctly there. In a country where raw materials for literal rubber materials is plenty, the company expects to output the decrease by 200 million from mid-March to mid-April. This creates not just a problem for couples getting frisky while in quarantine, it also is raising alarm for the United Nations over fears of spikes of sexual transmitted infections in HIV. Now, hold on real quick. Let's talk about that. If I'm locked up with someone and we are quarantining together, yeah, quarantining is what we'll say, and we're getting a little frisky, wouldn't I already know if they're okay to be doing some of that stuff with? Because I don't know if I want to take that risk rate at this particular moment, being locked up and then taking the risk of being the frisky person. I mean, I don't know. That's just my thought. Maybe we need to put it through a hazard matrix first to make sure that it's all okay.
Duh.
Anyways, let's continue. General Motors and federal government had finalized a deal for production of 30,000 ventilators by August for you ready for this? A $489 million price tag. That's a bit more than the $16,000 a pop. GM will be using the design of another firm, Ventec Life Systems. They had agreed with a partnership a few days back, but about 1/5 of that order is expected to be completed by May. So, I guess that's some good information that you can actually take a look at, that they're going to get those moving. $489 million. That's a pretty hefty price tag, man. I just want to bring that up. Of course, that might be important to you, important to me, because I'm sure that that's coming out of the tax dollars, as we already know.
Duh.
Let's continue. Geico is joining the car insurance rebate game after Allstate and AM Farm, or AM Family, because I don't know why it says farm, but I'm sure it's AM Family, because that was the one that was doing it a few days ago, announced similar plans on Tuesday. Geico said that it's giving 15% credit to auto and motorcycle policyholders for renewed coverage over the course of the year. So you hear that shit. It's not that you're getting the rebate. you're getting a percentage credit for renewing. Tricky. Because he had to look at it that way. So if I don't renew, I don't get the discount. And what if I don't like Geico? I mean, nothing against Geico. I'm just saying. What if I don't like them? And hold on. If they're already saving me 15% or more, and then now they're giving me a 15% rebate, is that commercial going to change now, now we can save you 30%? I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just asking a question. Just some things about marketing you have to think about. Because that's part of the game. And that's the other portion. If I get another stupid email from the companies that are with me during this time that are here to help me during this impossible time. Well, a couple of different things. Number one, if you have not heard, a lot of people have lost money. But you emailing me to tell me, hey, right now we're here to help, and we're going to discount X for X. Is that really doing us a service? I don't have any money to start off in the first place.
Duh.
I mean, I'm just saying general public here. Something to think about as we're having the discussion, of course. Remember when plastic overuse was going to end the world? Well, that scenario doesn't seem to be so bad, as bag bans are being lifted across the country. In Massachusetts, 130 municipalities have rescinded plastic bag bans. And in San Francisco, it's not illegal to use reusable bags. It was the first city to ban them in 2007. Yeah, I said reusable bags, just in case. I did not stutter there, just in case. So anyways, what are you thinking about all this stuff? I mean, there's so many different things. I will tell you, I have received more emails from companies that I have been affiliated with or done business with that are referencing about sports goods that are now selling masks and how their mask and their filtration system will help out significantly. What are you looking at when you do all this stuff? Like, I'll tell you one in particular. There's a mask that I use when I work out that's called the Elevation Mask. So the Elevation Mask I've been using for years. So now they have the Ventilation Mask or the Vent Mask. And believe me, they're not a sponsor of the show. Love them, but they're not a sponsor of the show. But you can get a vent mask that you can use now. Now, I was talking to somebody a few days ago when we were talking about these different masks, and I was telling them that with the way that I look, facially, not how I look, not muscular, believe me, by no means whatsoever, but how I look, if I wore a mask that looks like that currently, people would probably think that I'm trying to dress up as Bane walking down the road. And nothing against Bane, but that's exactly how it would look. So when you start doing these mask things and start having these conversations, how crazy are you willing to get about the mask? Is the surgical mask going to be more than enough for you? Are you going to go out there and look for some of the N95 mask? Now, the funny part is, of course, I interact with listeners from time to time. They send me stuff. I read it. We go back and forth on some of the information. Now, the funny part is, have you seen some of the stories? Now, they're not vetted stories, so that's why I don't play them on the air here.
Duh.
That are talking about some of the things that are being done to some of these masks. And believe me, by no means am I going to sit here and go, oh, well, this was the news story says, blah, blah, blah. But there's a couple of different ones that are out there that are pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. So if you get bored and you have some time today, there's some stuff out there that's, just different stuff. I mean, I would look up mask in particular and some of the back end stories that you can find, because I don't even know if I want to give you the name or the title of the stuff, because I don't have it vetted. There's pictures and there's scenarios, but who knows, number one, how old the information is, and number two, if it's real or not.
Duh.
Anyways, let's continue. New York is likely to suffer a record levels of allergies. According to AccuWeather reports, New York is set to experience a near record levels of tree, grass, and weed pollen over the next 4 months. Just another reason to stay inside. Meanwhile, as the coronavirus rages in New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo will issue an executive order that will allow all voters to vote via absentee for its June 23rd primary. Previously, voters had to certify that they would be absent on Election Day. not just that they didn't want to wait in long lines. So that's something different that's coming up. Of course, there's already been some conversations where people are asking, will we eventually, opposed to actually doing paper ballots, where you can mail them in, where will we start doing digital? And of course, that's going to open up a whole other thing if we start doing that.
We are now video streaming the Rated R Safety Show. I don't know why our host has a face for radio. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, 3 spacemen are headed to the International Space Center today. Fearing spread of the coronavirus in space, they've been on a 14-day total quarantine. The crew includes 1 American and 2 cosmonauts. The Russians are replacements after one of the original pair suffered an eye injury. They're expected to stay in orbit for 6 months. Well, at this particular rate, staying in orbit for 6 months, does that really sound like a bad idea?
Duh.
Just something to think about, of course. Did you hear about this one? The United States Postal Service faces 60% losses by the end of the year. That is a significant decrease in business activity. It's bad enough that the USPS lost $8.8 billion during the last fiscal year, even with a booming economy. Democrat Jerry Conley, who chairs the House Subcommittee on Government Operations, is calling for total debt forgiveness and capital infusion to stay afloat. But one of the biggest reasons the agency insolvency is that it is expecting commitment to its employees' retirement benefits, not necessarily the cost of processing and delivering mail. So what are you thinking? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Is the USPS something that you still see a value in? Do you still receive traditional style mail? Or do you do everything digitally? I mean, outside of the Amazon world, because a lot of us use Amazon, even Amazon delivers a good chunk of their stuff now in their own vehicles. And for a period of time, the USPS was actually doing a good chunk of the deliveries, but that kind of started to see it kind of changing and not staying the same.
Duh.
So I take a look at it and I go, where do you see the value in the USPS? I mean, I still use them. Not daily. I mean, I still receive regular snail mail, if you want to call it that way. But that's one way to look at it. Anyways, here we go. Marijuana consumption hit an all-time high in March in the United States. Go figure. A survey of 2,500 consumers found that 33% had tried cannabis at some point in their life. That's a record high. Over the past month, 12.8 said that they used pot, up from 12.5 in 2019. Meanwhile, consumption hit the brake hards in the last weeks of March as job security for users likely to become less certain. So I don't know. Are you in a state where, number one, marijuana is legal? Is medical marijuana legal? Or can you use it recreationally? Because that's the different things to take a look at. Because I don't know. Is that something that if you had the opportunity to do, would you do it? Just something to think about. Anyways, let's talk about this real quick. Socialist Bernie Sanders, who owns 3 homes, has suspended his campaign for president of the United States. I don't know why the 3 home piece was important. Like, why did the news story have that? The coronavirus pandemic took all of the oxygen out of the room for his campaign. Hit the last gasp was the Democrat debate featuring Sanders and Joe Biden socially distanced at the podium with no audience and was lost in the larger scheme of things. Now, that is exactly how this news story was written. Not that I'm saying there's validity to the whole thing, but something to take a look at as you're taking a listen.
Duh.
Anyways, before we get into the rest of this stuff, I want to show you something real quick. So if you are watching on our little video chat, I want to show you something real quick. So today I was sitting around and I was supposed to be watching a live stream that's supposed to take place, and it didn't. And it was supposed to occur from a friend of mine, this guy right here. This guy right here, if you don't know him, his name is Sheldon Primus. So he had a conference scheduled for today that was supposed to take place, but it didn't occur. And I don't know why. So this guy right here decided not to do it, said that he got a little bit too busy when I tried to text him to find out what was going on. But the real reason why he decided not to do it is because he's scared of Twitch. Not sure what to do on Twitch. So this guy right here needs some encouragement from my peeps here that he needs to jump on Twitch and do some different things. Take the risk of coming out here and sharing some time. So take a look if you're watching us on the video streamer. And this guy right here, my buddy, who's been on who's hosted the show before on more than one occasion, is afraid of jumping on Twitch because he thinks that we're going to eat him alive. And I don't know why he thinks that. I like this guy. This guy's a great guy. But this guy right here. So I'll put a link if you're listening to us on the podcast. That way you can take a view on his LinkedIn and give him some encouragement of jumping on Twitch, doing some broadcasting there. Anyways, wanted to share that with you. I only do it from love, man. Only from love.
Duh.
Rated R Safety Show.
Sarcastic? Never.
Okay, no winner for Tuesday night's Mega Million drawing. Friday's drawing will be for a $136 million jackpot or $108.3 million cash payout. Something to think about if you're into that kind of thing. So, as you are aware, right now with the lockdown and people having to be quarantined, well, one of the essential services, or not essential services, is actually the barbershop, the hairdressers. So, this somehow made it into the news story. Carson Daly cut his hair live on the Today Show. The 46-year-old took a buzzer to his head as his kids and co-hosts Savannah, Hoda, Craig, and Al Roker cringed. Daly's don't do this at home didn't turn out so bad, however, as the celebrity hairstylist Chris Appleton, I guess, coached him through the process. Appleton is known for working with some different people that we don't need to mention, but still, why is this becoming such a big deal? I don't get it. Anyways, did you hear about this one? Here's one that occurred. Arnold Schwarzenegger has been urging others to stay at home with hilarious videos on social media. In his latest video, the 72-year-old documented himself and daughter Christina polishing his massive boot collection. While the 28-year-old took less than thrilled to help approach, Schwarzenegger said that he is lucky to have his youngest home with him, adding that he usually only polishes his boots twice a year. But since we have to stay inside and do social distancing, he figured he'll just do it a third time. Anyways, here's another one that caused some controversy that was all over the place yesterday. So let's reference this. Ellen DeGeneres is being slammed for a tone deaf joke that she made about self-isolating. The talk show host, who is home in her mansion with her wife, Portia de Rossi, told her fans this week that it's a bit like being in jail. Okay, well, good. That's her opinion. Following the comment, Twitter lit up with people who did not find the comparison funny nor accurate. One of the users said, "Ellen, you're quarantining in your mansion in a designer sweats is nothing like prison." While another added, "What a great look for Ellen as thousands of people sit actually in jail cells just hoping for the best without soap and basic protection." DeGeneres has not responded. So you see, it's one of those things that you have to be real careful when you give your opinions. Because on how certain things can turn out. As that being the case in point there. Anyways, have you heard about this one? Have you heard? Sports. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers debuted their new uniform. The Florida team has gone with a look that resembles the uniform worn back in the winningest era of 1997 to 2013. And of course, that's when they won their Super Bowl. So they debuted this. Now, a lot of people are actually asking if this was part of the reason, or not part of the reason, but one of the things when Brady came down, if that was one of the things that he wanted to change was how the uniform looked. Now, I don't know if he did or not. That's really none of my business. Another big thing that's been taking place is that Tom Brady yesterday was on the Howard Stern show. And a lot of people seemed to enjoy the interview, but a lot of people also complained about the interview, saying that Howard Stern had jumped the shark, that he was too friendly and not the Howard of old. I don't know what people are expecting. Should you be kind of douchey at the moment towards people. I don't think you should, but that's just my opinion. Anyways, let's talk about the days of the year that you can celebrate today. National Cherish an Antique Day. National Chinese Almond Cookie Day. National Former Prisoner of War Recognition Day. National Name Yourself Day. National Unicorn Day. And probably about the most important day out of the bunch, National Winston Churchill Day. If you're not familiar with him, you should probably try to look up some of his quotes because he probably has some of the best ones that are out there. Anyways, you have been listening to the Rated R Safety Show. I know who you are. You know who I am. Love ya. Mean it. Bye.
Duh.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only...
Hold on, before she gets too far into that lingo. Before I forget, because I did not mention it, we are still running our 10 ad contest. That's 10 ads that we're giving away that we'll be playing next week. Make sure that if you have not actually entered to go in and enter, you can actually join our exclusive list, and that will get you direct access into it. Or you can actually go to safetyfm.com/contest, and that will get the ball moving there. So those are a couple different options of what you can do to get that rolling and bowling. So we'll get that running and going. Also, some other different things. Some people had asked about what we were doing. As you can see, we do have a huge logo now of Patreon at the very bottom corner, because we have joined Patreon based on what people had asked. So if you go to Patreon/safety FM, that should actually get you into our little general area. Anyways, let's get you back to Kelly with her giving you the lingo of, hey, make sure you just don't hold us accountable for anything that we said.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.